Tamra, welcome to Revitalized Womanhood.
Thanks, Gina.
Thanks for coming. Sorry. And now the news. Welcome to Revitalized Womanhood.
As long as we get my name right.
Tamra. This is Tamra Stephenson.
Yeah, you did it.
Good job. I didn't say Tammy.
Not Tammy.
It's funny when you say something like, don't do that.
Right.
And then that's all you
then
can
you
do.
Want to.
Because it's at the front of your brain thinking, don't do it. Don't do it.
And then you're dance teacher when I was little I didn't like, and she said, Tammy, and that was it.
And that was it. You're like,
I was like,
done.
Never again.
Changed on the birth certificate.
Yeah.
It's gone.
She wasn't nice. So.
Well, I asked you to be on this, not only because of your fitness journey, because you are such an inspiration for me as far as your energy. It's electric. It's contagious. You know what I mean? And so it makes me want to join and want to do the things that you're doing because you have that vibe. But I didn't know much of your story. I just knew little clippets here and there from being friends with Lindsay, who you were friends with. And Tamra is an MS liver survivor. What do you call that?
I know. Fighter. People say fighter MS. Fighter MS.
Yeah, you live with this, but it doesn't define you.
No.
You are you, and you just live with it.
Right. And so, and I was thinking about this last night because I thought I often get told, you're so brave, and everyone knows I kind of have an issue with the word brave because I didn't choose it. I didn't say I'm going to pick this MS fight and I'm going to fight it.
This is going to be my cross to bear.
Yeah, I don't have any other choice but to get up and do my day every day. My choice, I like to say, is that I'm resilient, right? I get up every day and do the best I can. And that might mean that I'm spending half the day on the couch. And not everybody sees that. I go teach my classes and I make them home and need to just be down the rest of the day. So resilient, I still get up. It's not really a choice to have it, but it is a choice how I deal with it.
That's amazing. You're not giving MS your power. You're deciding, this is the hand I was dealt, but this is what I'm going to do with it. I'm not a victim. This is what I'm going to do with it. And so you were diagnosed 10 years ago.
Right.
And within a year, you were already proactively starting your own, joining fundraisers.
So I
started your own.
Right? I started my own fundraiser, and at the time, that was me teaching Zumba. So it was a small little Zumba fundraisers in my little town. And then I took it to my friend Jamie, who also has MS and teaches high up north in northern Utah, in a bigger area. And it went huge.
Hey.
And we did it for years until I moved down here. So.
Well, we need to start it back up here then.
I've tried.
It's not catching on. Jeez, who do we need to talk to about that?
I've tried.
Rude.
I know. And so, I've done a couple of awareness classes and just to keep it going, keep the information out there. But yeah.
So along with your fitness journey in a classroom setting, you also get to be the teacher instructor at the paddleboard. Is it specifically paddleboard yoga though? Or is it, what is it called?
So
and it's out at Quail Lake. Though,
right. I teach paddleboard, Pilates, and yoga out at the lake, and I teach paddleboard clinics. So how to paddleboard.
Okay.
Which is funny because I actually am a little afraid of the water. I know.
Facing your fears.
I know.
101.
Exactly. But I love it. And it's become everyone has to find that thing and find that place that gives them their own space and their own reset button. And the same year, right before I was diagnosed, we had gone to Hawaii and I had taken this paddleboard lesson in Hawaii, and I was like, this has got to happen. So I went back, I lived near a lake, and I was like, I'm going to make this up. I totally did. I was like, I have no real paddleboard technique, but we're going to make it up.
Trademarked. Copyright.
Yeah, I was like, we're going to do paddleboard Pilates. Paddleboard yoga was a little bit out. But yeah, I just got my community of high fit girls and fitness girls. I was like, come try this with me. Well, I didn't know at the time that you could do an anchor system and anchor down so you didn't move around. So I taught a traveling down the lake.
My God.
On a paddleboard. And it was so funny. And I would just kind of paddle around them as they floated down, and that's how it would go. Like I said, I really was making it up. So when I moved down here,
I was in that class so bad.
And started here, they already had this anchor system set up and this the way to do it. And I was like, well, that's genius.
Smart. So smart.
But it's on a much bigger lake than I was used to. And I was like, okay, I got this.
I got this. And we've recently had flash floods and storm watch for the last, oh my gosh, it's been like 4 weeks in a row, hasn't it?
It's been so I'm the event director for the paddleboard company at the lake. And the storms, that the monsoon season is killing me.
I can't giggle. It's not funny. People have been stranded out in the middle of the lake calling, saying, help me.
It was bad. It's bad. There's a new procedure already being written up.
I was a dispatcher, and so I can only imagine the phone calls that they were getting, like,
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
We'll send someone to help you.
And you can't put yourself in danger, be like, I'm coming.
No, you can't.
It's
That's
50 mile an hour gusts.
Mm-hmm.
And we did have our boat guy that was out there, and so that everyone did get back in safely. But it was,
touch
it
and
was
go there for a minute.
That was the scariest thing I've ever.
My gosh, that is crazy.
And we've got all these teenagers working for us, right? And I'm like, are they still with us? Have they been blown away?
Yeah, they weigh like not even 100 pounds.
Right.
They're basically the windsock for landing the life flight helicopter to come save people.
Now, I will say, generally, the weather app that we use is so good. And we can predict up until that hour and say, you know what, it's not going to be. We don't. There was nothing on the radar.
Just out of nowhere.
Nothing. And
it's ended days. We were up at our cabin in Apple Valley watching the 2 tornado funnels.
Right. When there's tornadoes in St. George.
Tornadoes in St. George? It is the end of days.
It's the end of days.
I was looking for the locusts. I'm like, okay, well.
The moon.
Now it's going to, we're going to have blood all around our doors next. And
right. So now I just pray when we have an event that.
Pray to your gods, whatever they may be. Whoever they may be. And we'll be good.
So that's just fun. That's just fun for me to teach that out there. It's great.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about, because I promised my best friend that I would talk to you a little bit about your experience you're having with, you said it's electroshock therapy with your MS.
Oh, yeah.
Because I called her last night. So my dear best friend, Stacy, I even called her to say, could I say your name? I don't want to just tell your story, even though anyone who knows us knows Stacy, and she was diagnosed with MS when we were 15 years old. So the information that I've gotten from it is just, at first, from a 15-year-old's perspective of it. Like, you don't understand
and that's
it.
So young.
It's so young. And she is a trooper, and I love her to bits and pieces. But I said, Stacy, this lady, I'm talking to her. She was telling me about this electroshock therapy, and she can feel this side of her body, and you've got to do it. And she's like, well, okay. She's doing infusions right now. Something about with infusions right now.
Right.
And so that's her little journey she's taking right now. But I said, okay, I will ask her everything there is we need to know about this, and I will get the details after, and we will go from there.
So after 10 years, and they've really put me on every trial drug that's come out, and after being on those infusions for 5-6 years, they weren't working anymore. And so I've lost a lot of feeling on my left side in particular. Some places of my muscles I just can't feel. You can poke at my bicep all day and I can't feel it. And so I love weight training, but I can't feel. So usually I have a trainer that helps me. Well, I let that go for a bit, and I've been declining, and I've started a new drug therapy. But, knowing everything I know about what you eat matters and your fitness matters, those things affect your inflammation. And so I'm thinking, what outside the box can I do? So one day on Facebook, like the St. George big Facebook group, I was like, does anybody know a trainer that works with neurological conditions? I don't want a new trainer. I don't want somebody that just passed their test.
No.
I want somebody
specific
that knows how to work with neurological. And boom, 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 5 people recommended this gym. It's the Iron Titan gym. I'll give you a plug. Plug Denim. And
feel free to write a check to Revitalized Womanhood.
Right. So they said, check this out. So I started looking on their social media stuff, and here it is, this electrotherapy, right? So I messaged them, and the way he explained it to me is, you have those, you can be hooked up in physical therapy, but the currents that run through the type that you use in physical therapy have a pause in it, right? It's kind of a pulsing. Well, that's interrupting your neural system, right? As you're doing that, might be helping the muscle, but it's got an interruption to it. So not so much for the neural system. So the type that they're using runs a constant current. So the goal with doing, if you look at what I've done, how I'm hooked up, they've got these pads and these wires coming, we hook it up onto the side that's not working, back of my leg, my bicep that's not working, and it's making it fire up. I'm doing this while I'm working out. So I'm lifting weights.
So you're attached while you're working out.
Correct, right.
That seems like that would make you drop things like,
well, and it's funny because they're turning it up
it
as your body's getting used to it.
Okay.
And the first appointment you go in, they map it, they can actually tell where it's skipping, where you're not getting feedback.
Yeah.
So the whole goal is, with MS, you've got your neural pathways are interrupted. Your brain is not actually speaking to that muscle, right? It's disconnected. It's got some damage there. Where that myelin sheath, you think of it as a wire that's running to anything where it's starting to wear away, right? It's not going to work. You're afraid of it. You replace it, right? Well, we can't replace ours. And so we're trying to work around it. So using this electro system, we're building new neural pathways. And so the hope is over time that I won't need that, right? So, and I actually had a girl in class today that said, I was watching one of your videos and she's like, I swear you're moving better. And I was like, I wanted to cry because that's so awesome, right?
That's
my
awesome.
Squats have even gotten deeper because one part of my body is my hamstring on my left side that doesn't work. It is amazing to do a squat when both sides of your body are actually, I was like, oh.
You're not sideways.
Right. So I trip a lot. I don't actually walk straight. No one wants to hike with me because I knock them off the trail. Yeah, my gait is off, I think that might be why I like teaching a cardio class where I'm moving all the time because no one can tell that I'm off balance. It's like
I said about step. If you don't know what anyone's doing, just flail.
Right?
That's all you have to do.
And I think that's why I like paddleboard because that's what my body feels like all the time.
Well, and you're constantly in that. Yeah, and imbalance.
I feel like I'm balanced. So
that is so true.
That's the electro system that they're using with that. But they're the only ones local that are doing that. So they did a training through
amazing.
Texas. Yeah.
I'm excited.
Think outside the box. That's my whole thing. Yes, but doctors are always going to, they're looking at what medicine can they do to fix a problem. And we all know there's so much more. So yes, I'm not saying don't do those, but
if they stop working for you, you have to keep
right.
looking.
You've got to think outside the box. And Pilates has been such a huge part of that for me. And I was already teaching 5 years in when I was diagnosed.
Love Pilates. Pilates, everybody, if you don't know what Pilates is, I was explaining it to my husband the other day, and I'm like, it's your core. Your core of your body is the most important thing you could possibly take care of, because if you want to lift those weights, what's stabilizing you? You have to have your stabilizing muscles so that you're not just like,
well, and if you think of your body as a star, if you put both your arms out, both your legs out, and you start, your core is nipples to knees, everything around it.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
It is the center of your body. And so your arms and legs are moving off that center. And where does injury come from, right? Is when we're not balanced.
Yep.
And so if you're not working those muscles, those small stabilizer muscles inside that sits closest to your joint, and you're only lifting heavy weights, chances are your risk of injury has skyrocketed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I don't know that there is a safe or happy segue into this, but I was on the treadmill today and Tammy said,
oh my gosh!
Tammy. It is. It's right on the front.
I just looked at her. I can't believe she did it.
Tammy.
I'm done. I'm out.
Bye. Thanks. Oh my heck. I told you when you're trying to tell yourself not to do something, it comes out.
I like you enough.
Tam. Oh,
it's
thank
fine.
you. It's fine.
It's fine. It's going to be fine.
Okay. The strug bus.
My MS brain will forget within like 30 seconds, so it's totally fine.
We'll forget soon. It's
going to come and go.
So she sent me this video that is actually a YouTube video. So she has shared this and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful share. And I literally was on the treadmill and I'm watching it going, no way.
I was a little worried about where you were at when I sent it. Because I was like,
I think the lady next to me is like looking and I'm like, no way. And it was for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, correct?
Right.
You decided
in
to
April.
Share your story. And I just had to immediately run to her and say, can we please discuss this? Can this be on the table? Because this is such an important thing. And I will put in my intro for this episode, moms, if you're in the car with littles, this is not the episode. We need you to turn this off right now and come back and definitely re-listen later on. Tell us about your experience with sexual assault.
Okay. So at 16, my dad had moved us from Happy Valley, Utah out to Missouri. Very culture shock for me. We didn't know what we were headed into. Predominantly Black community. And I stuck out for sure. And a Mormon girl in Missouri, you guys. Even the textbooks were wrong. Hopefully they fixed them. But it was just a different way. I mean, all the parents were down for kids drinking as long as you did everything at home. Down for pot, fine. As long as you're doing it at home. Like, it just was such a different way of life for us. And I had moved often younger, but this was the first time as a teenager. We had moved, and I was devastated leaving all my friends. And so I made this one really good friend that was down the street. She was a year younger from me, and then she had a twin brother. And it's rural, like there's no place to really work. So also down the street, the only place to work was McDonald's. And we're like, yeah. And it was actually cool to work there because there is no place to work out there.
My 10-year-old tells us that he's going to work at McDonald's.
You know what? Okay. It was the place. So, our only friends were people that we worked with and then went to school with. And so I had only been there a few months. And I was a bit of a partier. We're just going to say.
That was his way to do.
That was just the thing. But I came from Utah where you didn't get in much trouble. There was some drinking and smoking, and there wasn't a whole lot. So I was naive for sure, and went to this party. Our friend, this guy friend of ours, had this big old van, and he had a friend from out of town. And so they swung by, picked me up, we went and picked up my friend. We all went to this party. Didn't know this apartment. They were older people. And this guy's hitting on me, and I'm 16. I'm like, cool. He's from like Vegas, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm still thinking maybe I'll get kissed. Maybe that's kind of the extent of it. And I just wasn't thinking. And about an hour into the party, I'm not seeing my girlfriend anymore. I haven't seen her for a while, and I didn't know. Anyway, end up in the back room with this kid, and I'm still thinking we're just gonna kiss. It's fine. He shuts the door though, and that was kind of that. He didn't stop, and he didn't take no for an answer, and it was kind of an outer body experience. I don't remember a lot of it. Almost like looking down at myself, going, "Check out, just check out." And I just remember him looking at me saying, "What?" I didn't do anything, and left me there. I just blankly start staring out this room, walking out. I see my friend that had brought us and picked us up, put his hand up to give me a high five, and I was like in shock. So I just kept walking out the front door, but sat down on the grass. I didn't know what to do. I still don't know where my girlfriend is. I don't know, what's even happening. So a girl came out and saw me sitting there, and I'm clearly not in a good way. And she was a friend from work, and she said, do you need a ride home? And so I went home. Yeah. Do you want me to tell more? Do you want me to keep going? So ask questions. I can tell you more.
I'm on the edge of my seat, and I've already heard this story. I'm just, okay, and then what? And then what? Yes, I would like you to explain what happened. I don't want to put blame on anyone. I don't want to, as far as, I have a story that I will tell after, okay. And I don't want to put blame on people that I didn't give them the opportunity to help me.
Yeah.
But you did.
I did.
And so do you feel comfortable sharing that part?
Sure. So the next day, I ended up telling my mom because she I was a mess. and she's trying to get us all to get up and get dressed and go, and I couldn't function. And I'm still not clear on what happened or how to even say. I couldn't even say the word rape. I couldn't say it. I was already putting a lot of blame on myself. I shouldn't have been there.
That's exactly what you do. You are a 15, 16-year-old girl, especially raised in Utah, in the communities that we are raised in, and 100% of that blame just falls. I shouldn't have done that.
I shouldn't have been there. My mom didn't even know I was at this party. Like, I'm already snowballing. So she figures it out. And all I can do is answer these questions she knew. And so it was never even said out loud, but she knew. And so she's like, I won't make you go to church this week. She gave me a day off.
This week.
So
thanks, Mom.
I ended up walking over to my friend's house and trying to tell her what happened, and she's crying. And I'm like, I won't say much about her side of it because it is her story to tell. But basically, the reason I didn't ever find my friend is because they had already taken her home, but they wouldn't take her home. They wouldn't take her home till she did certain things. And once I was done with her, they took her home, and then came back for me. Very planned. What I didn't say in that video was after, how long it's been, 30 years, I called her. I called her last month.
And have you talked
2
to
months
her?
ago.
I mean,
previously, no.
Okay.
We did talk about it again. Nobody talked about it again, and we'll get to that. But I had some blank things that I needed to fill in these blank spots and say, just for myself, am I right? Am I right? And I was totally right that they dropped her off and came back for me. And that was that's been a really hard, nauseating thing to deal with. But my mom knew. Adults at work knew. He worked with us, he had this friend. And it just was dropped. It was, nobody talked about it again. The answer was take her to some therapy. And, but if they're not talking about it, how am I supposed to heal? So it really just never got anywhere. And his friend that was from out of town ended up going to our school for 2 months.
And you're stuck with them.
He was down from our locker, 5 down.
And that's the thing that kills me, is the normalization of this. It's like, what? I didn't do anything.
Right.
It was such a normal thing for him to think that he was right in doing it, that both of them, everybody involved, that it was so normalized for them. So how many other people has this happened to?
So it just made me question, maybe it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone's right. But he, my friend had come to me maybe a few weeks later and tried to apologize. And I told him to go to hell.
Yeah.
So that just, that got shoved very down deep. And while I don't feel like I'm a victim of that situation anymore, my core beliefs from that have been, I don't feel seen and I don't feel heard. And don't trust anyone.
Yeah. And
that has been my core belief through marriage, through raising children, into adulthood. And I'm just starting to work on those now.
Traumas that we don't even realize. I mean, it's a trauma, but you don't realize they're affecting the person you're becoming, or they don't have realized that it's affecting the relationships that you're going to have with other people, because you're locking that down. That part will never be opened. It's locked down and you won't be seen. You're not heard. That's constantly something you feel about yourself.
So when I moved here, unexpectedly, I had a nervous breakdown when I got here. I had more time on my hands. Most of my kids had moved out, and my body finally said, you need to deal with all of this. And so it's been a process, just even living here, of trying to undo these core beliefs that aren't true.
And raising 4 daughters.
Right.
That's, I'm sure, I can imagine that those conversations were very open and very communicated with each one of them.
No.
Really?
No.
Oh my. So
they are now.
Okay.
They are now.
Was that because you felt like it was locked down and you didn't want to bring it up? It was locked down,
and we felt like if we didn't tell them I was an alcoholic by the time I was 18, if we didn't tell them about the rape, and they would live their own lives and didn't have to know mom was such a hot mess. And it was a disservice to my daughters. And at one point I finally said, this is who I am. And this is what happened. And maybe this will make more sense to you on why mom's a basket case sometimes. And so real conversations have happened since then. But I thought I was doing the best thing, and it really wasn't.
Well, you feel like that if you maybe, I know as a parent of small boys, you know, I feel like some of the things I say, maybe they'll take that onto themselves and kind of, what's the word? Not become a victim of something, but
Right.
but that it will change something, or the way that they see the world, or the way that they see
Right.
life, or when really it is something that you should be communicating and saying, this does happen in life, be aware.
Well, and I think there was still a lot of shame wrapped around
Yeah.
that for me, right? And so even bringing that up, my kids seeing me in a different light was, you know, I didn't want that.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
even my husband. We
You
didn't
don't wanna
talk
be the
about
victim.
it. I've known my husband since I was 15. He was around. He was there. So that's hard for me. We were best friends at the time. And didn't start dating until I was 20, but he was around. And so he saw me as this mess that I turned in. I started drinking heavily, and in rehab twice by the time I was 18. So, yeah, he's been there for it all.
Well, I know I have a situation. It's not similar in regards to going to a party. This person was actually my boyfriend. It was someone that I should have had all the trust in, and I was just young, and it happened, and same thing, acted like it was a normal thing, and it should have happened. And I was like, felt so ashamed, like you're saying, like ashamed, and what are my parents going to think of me if they know
Right.
this happened? And then it just, the worst part about coming from that is it does become normal after that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when you're 15 and it's like, no, I will not have sex. I will not have sex. I'm not ready to have sex. It's
Right.
not going to happen. But then it happens, and it becomes something where I don't know if I just didn't have enough self-esteem after that. It broke me down enough that I didn't have enough self-esteem. But after that, it was kind of like,
Well, I figured.
there goes my childhood's gone.
Well,
So
yeah, I
you've just
figured
grown up, basically.
Why not?
Yeah,
because it was taken from me. So
Yeah,
clearly it
means
doesn't
nothing.
matter.
Clearly
Yes,
it doesn't
right.
matter. Clearly it means nothing. So this is now a normal thing.
Right.
And that is the biggest problem I have with it. I have 16 nieces. I got to do the math. Gosh, we just keep having them. So I don't know. Another one pops up out of nowhere. My one sister actually did not tell any of us she was even pregnant. It was like on her 4th baby or something. And she called us the day she had her and said, hey, by the way, you guys all have a new niece.
Stop it.
Yes. She lives in Seattle, so we don't see them
Right.
very often.
You're like,
but
well,
I'm like,
thanks.
well, that was rude, but kind of funny. Anyway, I have all these nieces, and my sister and I have actually been talking about this because my one niece is at that age where my sister and I are both looking at each other like she has to know that these boys, once they have it in
Right.
their head, it's there and it's going to happen. And she needs to know that she doesn't have to be pleasing, and she doesn't have to just, okay, she
Right.
needs to be assertive and stand up for herself and know who she is. It's like, how do you have those conversations? And so my sister doesn't want to, same thing. She doesn't want to like have her daughter see her in any other way. Not that she had this experience,
Right.
but I'm saying she doesn't want to give any of her own personal stories because she doesn't want to affect that relationship between them. And I said, well, then use me.
So you end
Go
up
ahead
giving
and use me.
all this advice, and they're wondering why. So he's trying to give all this advice without giving away what had happened.
Yes.
And trying to
exactly.
say, I know what I'm talking about,
And
without
they don't
saying
believe
what's
you.
Right.
They don't believe you.
So-
You're like, oh, you're just mom. You don't know anything.
And which is why I finally broke down. At least my 3 older girls at the time. I didn't say anything to my youngest at the time, but I pulled my 3 oldest ones aside and said, this is what happened to me, and this is why I have the roles that I have. This is why I worry for you, because I'm sorry to take your blinders off. I can't do that anymore. We're living in an area where we're in like the number 2 highest for suicide rates, and it's no longer right. You can't keep in that bubble.
Nope,
you
you
cannot
can't.
stay in that bubble.
That is one of the biggest things I get asked a lot is, what do you hope your kids get from your travels? And it is that they see that the world is so much bigger than the little bubble that all the rest of us were raised in. The world is so much bigger. You don't have to do what everyone does. You don't have to look the way everyone looks. You don't have to, you be you. And I think building...
I would love to have done that.
That confidence in them, and you don't know what language they're speaking, but still go be friends with them. That makes them, I think, stronger people in their own self-confidence, so that when we do come back to places like St. George, Utah, or Utah
in general,
well, they can say, I don't need to follow what you're doing, and I don't appreciate what you're doing. I hope, that's all we can do as parents is hope. But,
right. And now, I'm older than Gina here.
Not by much.
All my kids have moved out, and you can always say in hindsight, I wished I would have done this. I think moms, we're hard on ourselves, and the only thing you can really do, and this is just a staple statement I just say over and over again, I did the best that I could under the circumstances I was given.
Absolutely.
Through my teenage years, through raising you as children, I messed up. There was no handbook for,
Well, and that's why I don't want to put any blame onto my parents, because I never gave them the opportunity to advocate for me. My mom 100% would have been right there at the, she would have advocated for me 100%, but I didn't give her the opportunity to, because I didn't trust her at that age, but maybe not a trust, but I was ashamed.
Have you had conversations with her since then?
No. No, but I just know we've had other conversations about other things. She knows I'm the child that just had to do everything my own way. I was literally, I think it's been long enough that I can tell the story that I was, for my first marriage, and he's a great, sweet guy. And this is not a jab at him at all, but my mom just kind of knew. She knew it wasn't right for me, and she knew it wasn't right for either of us. And she was putting my veil on, saying, Gina, the van's outside. Gina, can you please go get in the van? Gina,
How old were you? Your first marriage?
21.
Okay.
I actually turned 21 a week after. So we were late for Utah standards. We weren't even...
It's like 2 years past.
But he was my high school sweetheart, and not that one. And she was like, just go. And I'm like, Mother, I am not. What are you? And then, like, gosh, why do moms know everything?
And you just nodded.
But I was definitely the child that was, I'll figure it out for myself. And so she just had to let me, and she still is, bless her heart,
So is she going to hear this podcast and be like, we need to have a conversation?
Yes. No, she, maybe.
Maybe. Might not be a bad idea.
But, yeah, I don't know, ladies. So that's what, I think that's what we're saying is what I would love to hear some comments on after this from all you other moms or women, or I hope, I heard this, Tam sent this to me, and I was on the treadmill, and I was almost floored. I almost flew off the treadmill watching this, like, what?
Oops.
We were coming on talking about MS and your story with MS, and she sent me that, and I was like, okay, we've got to talk about this.
And
this is
tied,
so important.
Tied together.
And so you said that. You said that you believed that your MS was triggered by the trauma?
There's no family history. And things that cause MS are trauma, possibility, where you live, just geographically can be that. And any previous family history can be part of that. And the more I've dove deep into body's reaction to trauma response, and what chemical changes happen in your body through trauma response. Do research on it, you guys. It's pretty fascinating. But when you live in a fight or flight, mode, year after year, day after day, your brain chemistry changes. And I have not been out of that until maybe even recently. So I have spent 30 years in this fear, in this fight or flight, in this stress, in this can't trust anyone. Even though I've been married, love my husband dearly, love being a mom, I still feel like I need to run. And I'm not protected. And yeah, so that makes a lot more sense to me than there's no rhyme or reason for it.
Right, exactly.
Right?
There's nothing in the family tree, so why is this happening?
Right. I've lived, there was just no reason for it hitting when it did. And really the symptoms, I can back it up to after that, starting at 18 and it coming on, just not diagnosed till later, which often happens. So, Stacey being diagnosed that early.
Exactly.
Right? And the more they've known about it, people are getting diagnosed earlier.
Because they're watching for things.
Because they get it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Thank you so much
trauma.
for sharing that. I said it before. I wasn't convincing my friend Kelly. She'll do anything for me. She's so sweet, you all, if you heard Kelly's episode. But I said, Kelly, if you help one mom that is going through a small part of what you're going through, and if you give her a little bit of see the light at the end of the tunnel, or hope for a better future, or just see that you're not alone in a struggle, because we are all struggling for whatever reason. We all are. So if that helps one person, you have to tell this story. And that's exactly how I feel about this, is if it convinces one person to stand up for themselves, or even if it convinces any of you moms out there, especially the ones with daughters or the ones with boys. Okay, forget it, because I have boys and they will know how to treat a woman. They will know how to respect a woman. And that is how I will take this forward.
Well, I even want it to be conversations that get started. I feel like there's this, my kids are great, so we avoid these conversations.
Yeah.
Not my family, not my kid, until it happens and you're like, what the hell?
Where did that go wrong?
Right. And then you start blaming yourself as a parent. So I think, unfortunately, my youngest, that's 18 now, when she was 13, that's the first time I said, conversations have got to start. She had a 13-year-old friend commit suicide at 13.
That's so young.
And I was like, I start having this conversation, like, how much are you hearing the word suicide in school every day, Mom? And I was blown away. We're talking 7th grade. And I, for some reason, thought high school age. And we're backing it up way earlier. And I thought,
We've had these conversations when I was working in dispatch, because you're not aware of those kinds of things, because I wasn't a mother yet. I mean, even if I was a mother, he was only brand new newborn. And you learn all of these things from A, taking the call, or B, having the school resource officers that know about the information, and you're taking the calls for situations that they're handling, and it's eye-opening.
Right.
That, like you're saying, 13, that is way too young for a lot of these things that are happening in our schools.
And what's happening is that friends are dealing with it among themselves. They think they can handle
it. They think that they can
their
coach
group,
each
that
other.
No parent needs to be involved.
Yes.
And so there needs to be this conversation of, this is why the adult has to be, your brains are not developed enough to be able to handle, what are you guys all going to do when something actually happens? And you guys are taking on the guilt along with it now.
I say that when my nieces post things politically on their Instagram, and I go, do you even know what you're saying?
I'm not touching that one.
No. But that's what I mean. It's like, shh, let the grown-ups talk. And I get they're trying to have their voices, but this is not a situation. I actually had the conversation. What was it about? My little boys, I was taking them to school, and remember, they are... Castle's not yet 11. He'll be turning 11, and Hayes is 8.
Right.
And I said something, and I said, you know that you can talk to Mommy and Daddy about anything, right? And they said, yeah. And Castle says, well, Grandma and Grandpa. And I said, yes.
Yeah.
You can absolutely talk to Grandma and Grandpa about anything, but you can talk to Mom and Dad about anything. We will always love you. And I think for me, again, I'm not blaming my parents. I love them dearly. It was my own fault and my own choice to not trust them enough to go to them. But I did not feel like I could go to them. I felt like they would be so ashamed of me. And not even in that one particular instance. There were different things in different times of my life where I just did not feel, I felt like I would just be the burden on them
Yeah.
and how shameful. So anyway, so now, yes, I think I'm overly like, tell mommy everything.
Well, but even giving them a name of an adult, like I have a couple of girls that I wasn't the person that they were going to share things with. And I said, okay, where do you feel safe at? Who do you feel like, because you've got really good friends with moms that I'm friends with. Who do you feel like? And they would give me a name. And I would contact this mom and say, if she calls you at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they were like, absolutely. And they did.
Yes, good.
And I was like, they don't have to tell me unless it's really about your safety.
It's not even the phone tree, it's the trust tree now.
Now, because I want you to have somebody that's an adult that you feel safe going to. I'm fine if you don't feel like I'm a little sad, but
yes,
your safety is still my number one concern. And my
Absolutely.
girls will still all tell you that I was overprotective. And I'm like, yeah, I don't feel bad about that. Sorry.
I will never apologize.
Get back to me when you have some kids.
Yeah, I will never apologize for being overprotective.
Mom, you raised us in a bubble. You're welcome.
Thanks. Sorry. Go have your own kid. And then as soon as they do have their own kid, that is 100%
I'm just
my mom.
waiting. A, I want a grandkid. But B, I'm just waiting for them to all have their aha.
Oh man. My mom's getting it now. She loves it. She smiles
my mom does
every
too.
time I call her and Hayes is doing something that I know I did and is so naughty about. And I'm like, oh. And I says, yep, God has a sense of humor. And it's
that grin
Hayes.
your mom gets on her face.
Yeah.
And I know. And I'm like,
she feels so validated.
I know.
I'm like, I know.
Karma kid. She calls it the karma kid. She's like,
Yep, the karma kid. Well, I am so glad you came on here. I'm so glad you told your story. I hope that it gets to the right people. And I'm definitely going to link the show notes for the paddleboarding.
Yeah.
Because I think that is so fun. But it's going to end in September, right? Didn't you tell me?
Like towards the end of September.
Okay, so we have till the end of September. So
I'll
I am
up.
going to add that, and I'm also going to add in the show notes anything. Do you have somewhere specifically that you would recommend to go for MS support?
So the MS Society, one of the things that happened over 2020 was the MS Society, like anything else, figured out some really good extra resources, right? So while we weren't meeting in person anymore for groups, those kind of died off a little bit. If you go to the MS Society website, there's so many resources now on being able to call someone and setting them up with someone that you want to talk to even every week, and they will put you in contact with somebody else in your area. Like there's such a good phone tree now, and so much more information out there. And we also started all these like little podcasts and all the things.
MS community.
Yeah,
we all need community.
I know,
it's
right?
It's like the underlying message of everything I do.
And they wanted me to start a group in St. George, but COVID, it just kind of ruined it. But my big thing with that here was there are active MS people. Like, we can't do everything. We don't have to do everything, but let's get moving and connect. So it's all about that connection. I think.
You can call me anytime you're doing something. I'm there.
Okay, cool.
I'll be there with bells
before
on.
You leave country again.
Yeah. I might be sending a check from another country.
It's fine.
It's fine. I'll be with you in spirit.
But yeah, and then I can link the gym. I mean, if you guys want information on the electrotherapy too.
Yes.
We can do that.
I'm taking that myself anyway, but we can link that too.
Okay.
And then obviously there's national things that we can link for sexual assault.
Right.
And I don't know that I need to, but that's such a big Google thing. I mean, but I will. Yeah. I will. Why not? I'll put it right here.
Okay.
And any moms that want to chit chat about it.
Yeah, message. I'm happy to answer any comments too.
I am open and I will get you in touch with Tamra, and no problem there. Thank you so much for spending some time with me.
This was fun.
Thanks.
I like the headphones.
Do you?
I do.
It feels
I feel
good.
like Mickey Mouse ears. This is great.
Feels good. I'm sweating. It's so
I know.
hot.
I am.
Light is
I am
so hot.
dying right now.
So Tam got to be my very first in-house guest, and the behind the scenes is
it's fine.
Worse than Colorado. It's my own office. That's what's sad. But I'm learning.
In and out on the mic because I keep turning my head.
I need a little frozen dinner tray.
Right. You need a TV tray.
TV tray. I'm making a list. TV tray, another table. I'm making a list. It's going to be great.
Water cup that doesn't make noise. I kept wanting to reach for my water mug. It's going to make noise.
It's going to bump the desk. It's going to bump the desk. I'm looking at mine and it's clear over there.
I like
my water is clear over there. Yes. Thank you, Tam.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.